So often we think that whatever our family had, whatever we inherited, determines our future in health. But the field of epigenetics says that's not necessarily true, that we can change our genome. But how do we do it? The best way to do it is by certain rules with diet, certain rules with exercise, but for most people, that's not going to be enough. Um, I think that when you're thinking of epigenetics, the best example is I'm from a family that on both sides there's a lot of diabetes too. So even as a child, I was told, honey, don't eat much sugar, don't eat many sweets, because we get diabetes in this family. So trying to prevent getting diabetes for as long as possible is epigenetics. But there's so many things now that can be done. 2010, I was introduced to an all-natural product developed at the University of Colorado that had amazing science. I was invited to listen to the investigative report because a university was doing research on ADD, ADHD, and autism. And that was the field that I had spent so many years in, trying to figure out what we called what's wrong with these kids. So I was invited to watch it. It wasn't about ADD, ADHD, and autism. It was about oxidative stress. Now, when I was watching the video, I knew what oxidative stress was because I had been introduced to the words I was introduced to the words free radicals in the early 80s. By 1985, the accumulation of free radicals in the body that was greater than what the body had a defense system for was being called by scientists oxidative stress. So the investigative report that I was watching talked about how an all-natural pill developed at the University of Colorado could lower oxidative stress in a blood test. I was intrigued. I knew that in spite of all of those antioxidants out there, they were not lowering oxidative stress in a blood test, in a test tube, but not in a blood test. So an antioxidant, let's say blueberries, in a test tube could eliminate free radicals on a one-to-one. Molecule of blueberries, for example, there are many antioxidants, could eliminate one free radical. So they were able to say antioxidants lower oxidative stress. But when they tried to measure the lowering of oxidative stress in humans, they couldn't find anything that could do it well enough. So all of the growth of pills and juices and everything simply were not doing it. So when I saw that taking one all-natural pill could lower oxidative stress the average of 40% in 30 days, an average of 70% in 120 days, I was taken back. So when the video was over, I tried to explain to those in the room how critical and how important this is, because in the early 80s, I was taught by a research pediatrician that free radicals were the cause of disease. He explained that when a molecule loses an electron or gains an electron, it becomes abnormal. It then tries to penetrate the membrane of another molecule, trying to stabilize. This interaction is called, they named these little damaging molecules free radicals. And he said the brand new research indicates that where these free radicals accumulate in the body will be where the disease is manifest. Well, what we didn't know then that we know now is that the free radicals go up in the body because your production of antioxidant enzymes comes down. Every decade, you decline by 10%. and your lifestyle, and increasing oxidative stress makes it even worse. So tonight we're only going to be talking about the one organ, the heart. We're going to talk about how oxidative stress affects the heart. Circulation Magazine is the magazine of the American Heart Association. When I joined the company in 2010, I was extremely impressed. We only had a few clinical studies at that time on Protandim. I think we had 4. We have 28 now. Well, actually, we have hundreds, but we have 28 published because the company doesn't publish these, the universities do. When I found out about this article, I was extremely impressed because this is the first time the magazine Circulation has ever featured a natural product in their magazine. And they devoted 26 pages to the discussion of Protandim and how it affected the heart and what the conclusions are. And you can go back and look this up and read it. The conclusions were that it will lower heart disease by 50% by lowering what is called your osteopontine levels. What is that? That's this fibrous stuff in the heart. You hear about somebody having a blood clot. Blood clot went to the lungs. Blood clot went to the heart. Blood clot went to the brain. Oh, what's happening there? There was a problem, an occlusion in this vascular system, and so the body wasn't able to handle it. With this particular article, they also said that Protandim would lower C-reactive protein by 50%. That's why they were able to make the statement that Protandim will lower heart disease by 50%. That's huge. So that means that if you have a heart and you're an adult, you might benefit by lowering your C-reactive protein, and your heart may thank you for taking this all-natural product. Now, you notice here that this professor leads a study of a new drug to increase effectiveness of coronary bypass surgery. Well, you notice in the first paragraph, notice right here, the effectiveness of Protandim, a patented dietary supplement comprised of 5 ingredients, so forth. It's not a drug. It's an activator. At the time, it was still being called a supplement. So what did this one basically say? You read this article. It says the reason that it is able to improve bypass surgery is because it prevents scar tissue growth. Now, typically when they do a bypass or they do a repair, they will use a vein. You've heard people who got bypass surgery. Maybe they got a stent or something. And they said, well, they took a vein out of my leg. Well, the problem is veins grow scar tissue. Arteries can get blocked, but they don't get blocked with scar tissue, but veins do. So this particular article says that Protandim will 100% prevent scar tissue in coronary bypass blockages and stents. So often a person has to go back in years after they've had bypass or surgery to get angioplasty or to deal with a blockage. I didn't say this. Ohio State says that it will 100% prevent scar tissue. Now, why was this so important to me? Why were these science articles so important to me? I had known of hundreds of supplements that did not necessarily work. Now, this is PubMed.gov. This is the National Medical Library. You have to have 3 peer reviews before your study can be submitted for publication. And then I've been told that only 20% of them are actually considered pristine enough to publish. Now, here it is. Protandim We call this NRF2 because it activates the NRF2 pathway. So quite often we will say Protandim NRF2. Now, what are all these big words saying? Well, it's saying the same thing, but it was published first in that magazine. Then two other places had to do peer reviewed before it was sent here. So what does this indicate? There's the science behind how Protandim can improve the heart. Right. Again, we're on PubMed.gov. This is the top respected medical research site in the world. It's international. Now, when you look at the role of oxidative stress in heart disease, you see there are 20,949 studies. If you scroll through, you're going to find that they're all about how oxidative stress causes damage to the heart. You can get in here, you can read and read and read, and you will find the role of oxidative stress, that's accumulation of free radicals in the heart. I had about 7 of these scientific studies that I wanted to show you because it's not Jackie Sheppard saying that this could potentially prevent or help heart disease. It's Ohio State. It's the American Heart Association. It's all of these articles on PubMed.gov. We have 28 studies about Protandim on PubMed.gov. Only a couple of those are about the heart. The rest are about neurodegenerative and all sorts of other things. I wouldn't have put my name or all of the hours that I've spent these past 14 years behind something that didn't have the science to prove it.